Hi, I'm here to answer questions that you've brought up with me, and today I have a question about eye contact. So let me read the question. The way I make eye contact in meetings makes me feel weak. How and when should I make eye contact, and is it okay to break eye contact sometimes when I have to think? So I'm going to answer the last part of that question first. Yes. It is absolutely okay to break eye contact when you need to think. In fact, constant eye contact would be way too intense. It is really natural for us as human beings to break eye contact when we're speaking and when we're thinking, because eye contact is something that creates arousal in the sympathetic nervous system, even when it's pleasant, because it's a kind of connection, right? So if I were to try to keep eye contact all the time, it would no longer be pleasant. At some point, it becomes a primal challenge, right? It's a sign of aggression on a primal level if I really try to keep your eye contact constantly. You could try that with someone as an exercise, someone that you know. Just try to maintain constant eye contact, and you'll both feel pretty quickly, even if you like each other, that is really intense and unnatural, because that's not what we do. So feel free to break eye contact sometimes when you're thinking. Feel free to break eye contact when you're speaking, and especially when you're listening. Sometimes when you're listening and you are thinking about what the other person is saying, it's showing them that you're thinking about what they're saying, right? So there's nothing wrong with that, and it does not make you look like a weak speaker. So the question really becomes more about the first part, which is how and when should I be making eye contact in a way that makes me feel stronger and more present in meetings. So let me start by saying that we don't ever want to get too prescriptive about eye contact. It really depends on the situation that you're in. It really depends on the relationship that you're having with the people that you're talking to. So I wouldn't want to give you rules that you must follow, because they might not feel true to you in the moment, and then they can become really forced. So think of everything that I'm going to tell you as some loose guidelines. And again, without knowing the specifics of the situation, I'm going to give you just some broad thoughts to think about. Okay, so the first one is this. The idea of how and when to make eye contact is a very internal thought. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not making enough eye contact, I need to be making more eye contact, right? That's a really self-conscious thought that probably isn't actually allowing you to see the people in front of you. So let's change the attention. Instead of putting the attention on you and how much you're making eye contact, let's get curious about the people that you're talking to. What do they think about what you're saying? And especially if you're a little bit nervous about making eye contact, or even who you're talking to, can you look for body language that feels supportive to you? And if you're talking to more than one person, can you really look at people who feel supportive to you? And let's turn it into a kind of game. So can you look for body language where people seem really interested in what you're saying? Is there anything about them that's lighting up as you're talking, right? Are their eyes getting brighter? Are they sitting up a little straighter? Are they nodding? Are they making some affirmative sounds? Looking for body language a bit like a hunter. And I'm inspired by, for this particular piece of advice, I'm inspired by an exercise from Organic Intelligence, which is Steve Hoskinson's body of work that's a clinical approach to the nervous system. And he calls this the sparkle exercise, where you are hunting for sparkle as you talk. What is making other people sparkle, right? And that way your attention is totally focused on who you're talking to, and you're not even thinking anymore about how you're behaving and when you should be making eye contact, but instead on how what you're saying is being received. Now, not everybody is necessarily going to sparkle, but can you try to hunt for those little moments as a way of giving yourself something else to think about? So that would be my first piece of advice. My second thought is, if you're speaking to a larger group, and this is true both in virtual settings, right now we're still largely communicating over Zoom if you're watching this in real time, or in a larger group scenario in a live space together, Sometimes people try to see the whole audience, or let me put it this way. Sometimes people try to look at the whole audience and then actually don't end up seeing anybody. The whole audience kind of becomes a wash. And we can tell when this happens, both as the listener and as the speaker, because people tend to fall into presentation mode, right? Well, because they can't see anybody, they're not able to gauge reactions. They just start talking as if nobody is really in the room, and it kind of becomes what they've rehearsed. And it doesn't really feel true to either the speaker or the listener. So what can often be more effective when you're dealing with larger groups is to actually pick people in the room to make direct eye contact with. And as you're doing that, you can combine the first tip I gave you with the second tip. Pick people who feel like they're going to be supportive to you, and look for body language in them that feels like it's going to be supportive to you, so that you have something to shift your attention onto as you speak. And it's really interesting. A lot of people are worried that if they make specific eye contact with people when they're talking to a larger group, that other people will feel ignored. So they really need to try to see everybody. But actually, it's the exact opposite. If you try to see everybody, nobody will feel like you're really connecting with them. Whereas if you connect with specific people in the room, all of the people around them will feel like you're looking at them. So a great thing to do ahead of time is maybe pick some people in the audience, but in different, we're talking a large audience here, we want to pick people in different parts of the room so that we aren't ignoring one side of the audience. So that's another tip. And then if you are using Zoom, right, that's a virtual communication scenario. That is a slightly different situation because we can't really make eye contact, right? We're either looking at the people on screen or we're giving the impression of eye contact by looking into the camera. And that is a real challenge that, is probably for another video for another day. But one thing I will say now is, how can you make use of that camera? So most of the time you want to be gauging your audience and looking to see how they're responding, but perhaps there are really important points in your message that you might choose to look at the camera directly to say, so that everybody feels like, ooh, they're making eye contact with me, this must really matter. And then the last thing I'll say is, if this is a more formal, prepared presentation, or if you're an actor and this is a piece of text that you don't have memorized, and you're using notes, or you're working off a piece of text in that acting situation, then what you want to make sure that you practice is how and when you lift what you're saying off the page. So let me give you an example, right? Let's say you are welcoming everybody to the meeting and you have some notes in front of you that are prepared. Nobody is going to believe you as much if you do this. Hi, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you here today. Right? If you're starting to look at your notes at the end of the thought, then people know you're just reading your notes and they don't really feel like that's a heartfelt expression of, hi, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the meeting, right? So just make sure that if you are referencing notes, that you lift your eyes near the end of your thoughts so that you can really land what you're saying with your audience. And if you can do that even before you start to speak as well, it just helps people give the sense that you're talking to them rather than reading some notes. So all of these pointers are really to help you think about eye contact as a way of connecting with your audience. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, and it doesn't mean that you can't break eye contact within thoughts or when you're thinking or when you're listening. But if it's something that you struggle with, these are some thoughts that you can play around with. There's a lot more about this question that I could answer. So if you have more specific situations you want to throw out there, more specific troubles, please feel free to email me at clmatram@gmail.com, or comment below, or DM me, or however you want to get in touch. I'm here. And if you're enjoying these videos, please share them. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can keep all this free coaching content going. I'm loving answering your questions. Please keep them coming, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.